Okay, Tom, I want you to tell them where they can find them. If people don't know, haven't found the files, ask Tom right now where the files are at so you can get them downloaded and print them out, because there's some changes that I'm going to go through tonight on the call.
Okay.
There, and you need to have that document printed out so you can mark up that document.
All right.
Or those two documents, whatever. Okay.
Yes.
The one with the initial endorsements and definitions on it, and then also the table showing the players on page 3 of the one document that I sent to Tom, and then the new endorsement document that which should be a one-page document that Tom posted up there.
Right.
I might have posted it in Word, so basically I'll let him have it for here. So go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, right. What I did is
Bill Smith from Las Vegas.
Hi, Bill. In the Word document, I actually put the revised endorsements on the first page rather than the previous. And then the rest of it is all there. And it's in Word, so it'll be easy to change. And also, about an hour ago, I put a blank 1099A copy on the Skype group, and I just put one on the Yahoo group about 10 minutes ago. So download that too, because you'll need to be taking notes of that.
Yeah, you need to basically have a 1099A. I don't care what year it is or anything like that. Print out one of the pages for that 1099A.
Right.
Just one page that has the document, and then basically you can, when I go over on the call, you'll know how to fill it out. Okay.
Yeah.
So anybody having any problem trying to find the documents?
Didn't hear any problem.
No, so far okay. We found them, bringing them out.
Okay.
Lawrence, you on? Lawrence, you on?
Hi, Lars.
Hey, Marie from California.
Is Lawrence on?
I don't. Well, not everybody's identified themselves. There's an 845 number that's not identified.
All right, I'm going to have to pull back out and pull back in. I'll call you right back in.
Okay. Thanks, Bill.
All right. Okay.
Yeah,
everybody got the documents?
Yeah, I'm looking for my 1099A, and then I'll print that out.
Yeah, that's in the.
Yeah, I've got it in the files.
In the Yahoo folder.
It's I got it downloaded 11/11/2013.
Right. Doesn't make any difference.
You're going to have to get a new one, but basically you can order those, or you can use go in online and get the latest, the 2014 or 15 online, and basically then you could send the red copy into them and pay the $50 penalty if they assess it to you. But we'll cross that road when you come to it, okay?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you can print out the copies off of the online and submit those into where I tell you to.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just going to download a 2013 because it's probably similar. It's got boxes, you know.
Yeah, and just so you can handwrite basically what I tell you to put in there.
Right.
Okay. Anybody else have a problem trying to get a file?
You ready to go then, guys?
B copy. Yeah, this one says a 1099A-B copy.
Right,
That's
they're all the same.
That'll work.
If it's blank, it doesn't make any difference.
Right,
okay.
It's blank.
Yeah, we'll fill in the blanks.
This is Bill Smith again, and Lawrence Singleton.
Okay. Okay, we'll go ahead and start here, and people can listen to this call later. Hopefully, you've got the documents. If you don't have them, try and either send Tom an email or something to find out where they're located, especially if you can't find them in e-concurrent. Okay? Tom, go ahead and tell them where they're located in e-concurrent.
Well, they'll be uploaded to e-concurrent later tonight, but it's in the same directory name, Internal Revenue Banking.
Okay.
econcurrent.com/divine/files.
And that's Internal Revenue Banking.
Right. But the welcome letter went out again today. It goes out every other Sunday. And all that information about the Skype group and how to deal with the Yahoo group and where the backup is and how the call schedules, that's all in the email. So you guys should have the welcome email printed and stashed somewhere.
Okay, and what's the file name?
It's in the main Yahoo directory, just called welcome.txt.
Yeah, but what's the file name of the file that you're posting up there today?
1099A copy B fillable.
Oh, okay. The other one, the one with endorsements on it.
I call it 4 endorsements, the number 4. 4 endorsements.
Okay. Just 4 endorsements, okay?
Right.
Okay.
He said it's
so that's where the file's at. So anybody who's not on the call or listens to it later, that's the file name that you're looking for, is the 4 endorsements. Okay? Now, what I'm going to go over here is going to be on the 4 endorsement document, okay, on the table. Go to the table on the last page, okay? In the columns, okay, off to the right-hand side, okay, that is our person whose name is first name, last name. And in the first area there, he is the lender bailor. Okay? His registration number basically is he's operating under his Social Security number, SSN number with the dashes. His registration account number is his certificate of live birth number with the dashes in it. There is no money in that account, in the one that has dashes in it. And they've told us that all along. Now you go to the next column over, okay, to where it has basically last name, first name, capital, okay? And that is going to be the borrower, Bailey, on the 1099A form that you would use. Okay? His identification number is the Social Security number without any dashes. And then the account number, the bailment account number that has all the money in it, is your certificate of live birth registration number without any dashes. The guy's name that has last name, first name, he is the postal person. He's dead. So it's a postal account. And then you look at all the numbers out there, like in the postal system, certified mail number, registered mail number, express mail number, they're all postal numbers. They have no dashes in them. Okay?
Right.
Only the living can run a dash. The dead can't run a dash, so there's no dashes in their numbers. They're dead. So basically fixed, okay, and they're a one-time issue normally account, and they use our last name, okay. You're going to the grave site, okay. This account is in the postal world. Well, when you go to the cemetery, what do you look for? You go in there by family name or last name. Then you find the individual who is in that family plot. So we're going to the graveyard. We have to go in and search by last name. Then we find the person or the grave site that we want.
Daniel, California.
Okay, so that's what we're sitting at, is that basically we need to go in and use these. Now, the first one, when you are going to do a draw against your certificate of live birth, you would do a 1099A and also a drawing instrument. You would also have to do an endorsement, okay, over on that. The next one down is if you're going to use the Social Security account. So the employee under the Social Security system is going to have the Social Security number. He is our employee. He's not their employee. Our employee has to have a number. Okay? And he is basically the guarantor or guarantee insured. Okay? So that's his title. He is the he's the guarantee insured in the process. Then you go over to the next column over, the Social Security. His name is going to be last name, comma, first name, and then middle name if you have one. That is going to be the guarantor assurer in the process. And his number, his identification number, is the Social Security number without any dashes, because he can't run a dash. Okay? And then that would go over, and in most cases, you're going to, if you get a bill that has the Social Security number on it, without any dashes, or even with the Social Security number on it with the dashes, you need to endorse it over to the guarantor or the insurer, and then send it back to them. They have to do the 1099A, B, C, whatever. The biller, whoever bills you. Okay? The next one down is the military, if you had a DD-214. And that is the same as the certificate of live birth above. And his account is basically the selective service number. The account that has the funds in it is going to be the selective service number without any dashes, just like the account for the certificate of live birth, the one that has no dashes in it, because it's a postal account. And the postal employees can't run any dashes. Also, when you go in, back up on the Social Security, you would put down the account number on the back of the Social Security card you have, that F or whatever number you have. Okay, it's 9 digits, but one of them is a letter. So that would be the account number that would be being drawn from if you did a draw. So we don't need to draw that. We'll claim that later. I'll go over that. The last one down there is going against the assurance fund. Now, I want everybody to understand and have read what an assurance fund says. Assurance fund, a fund provided in states which have the system of registration of land titles for the indemnification of those who lose their property through fraud or error, and who are without other means of redress. Your registration into the into the Book of Life is a land title. So every state out here has an assurance fund, and it's held in the CAFR, the CAFR, and they call it Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, but its real name, when you look at it, is claiming Assurance Fund Reserve. It's our reserve fund that's owed to us, because they're using our land titles in their process to writing their bonds to fund all the corporations at the state level. There is no account number associated on this. Okay? You don't have an employee number, you don't have an account number or anything like that. This is under your guarantor, your postal person, so last name and then first name when you go in. On the endorsement, you come in as first name, middle name, last name as the guarantee or the assured in the process. I'll go over the endorsements in a little bit. But that's where the funds are held at the state level. And that would cover all your utility bills that you have property in that state. Or if you want to buy a new vehicle, if you're living in your home state, you would put the claim in, and this goes into the Attorney General's office at the state. The Attorney General is the chief officer, the chief financial officer over the finances of the state, because Justice Department or Department of Justice is really not about law, it's about just exchangements. Justice. It doesn't have anything to do with law per se. And then you look at all the prosecutions that they do, it's all about money. It's not about law. Hell, I doubt that half those guys in the Attorney General's office could ever argue a lawful point anyway. But they can argue charges out here, monetary-wise, and that's about all they can handle. These guys don't know the law, because most of the charges and everything out here are totally fraud. The court system out here, the driver's license, taking you in, basically they're all fraudulent charges. Because in this country, there was never supposed to be any debtors' prisons. But this bar association, the Bankers Association that came over here, they brought over the European penal system into this country. that England and basically all the other places were over there, yeah, basically you picked up a loaf of bread or picked up an apple off somebody's place, and basically somebody saw you, well, they charge you. You spit on the sidewalk, they charge you. Just for shits and grins. Throw you into prison. So all these charges that basically they're doing out here are total fraud. Is what you have to do is turn around and basically, if nothing else, do an acceptance and turn around and send it to the Attorney General's office to have them set it off from the capital fund. You get incarcerated, okay? You can turn around and put a claim in for being falsely incarcerated because they're going after the sovereignty of the state. Almost every state constitution out here starts off with the preamble. We, the people, the sovereignty of whatever, of Iowa, of Virginia, of North Carolina. That is a title of nobility, is sovereignty. You are a principality. Okay, in the process. And basically that is fully substantiated by the word America and also by the word admiralty. The first 5 letters in admiralty stands for admir. The first 4 letters in America is Amer. Both of them stand for prince. We are the prince and princesses. We're the sovereignty of the land. We came from the land. We are the land above. And the land is the sovereignty of the state, not the government. But they've got everybody believing the wrong thing. That the government has all the goddamn power. They don't. You have to come in and put them down in the right way. You don't argue with them. You just endorse it over to them. Say, I am here to settle. And here's the means to settle it. You go and draw the funds out of the CAFR fund. You can either send it up to the Attorney General's office, or I will take this bill and send it up myself. And let the Attorney General's office determine whether this court is total fraud or not. Because you have a right to travel. You are not for hire. You notify them, I am not for hire. I have the right to travel. But don't argue with them. Let them give you the ticket. Go ahead and take it. They're going to put an appearance bond on it anyway. You're going to turn around and claim it back. Now, whether the Attorney General justifies the charges, that court charges and everything else that are on there. I mean, if you never go to court, why is there a court charge on there? Why is there a criminal charge on there? That's total fraud. The process of getting you to be a criminal is that you basically have allowed them to utilize your assets, your land, in the public domain out here, and they have taken it and put it into a foreign or alienated monetary system of using bonds with a foreign entity. These insurance companies are all foreign. They were never supposed to be in this country. They kept them out until 1887. And so that's basically the fraud is that basically they made you a criminal in this bailee for hire scenario. I don't remember your bailee getting permission to hire your assets out. So it was done in fraud. So all these criminal charges are fraudulent. But see, you've got to know these things, okay? You've got to study. And the only way that I could put this all together was to go and do that table down below and have all the different definitions of the players up above. Whether you're the assured, the bailee, the bailor, the guarantor, the guarantee, the lender, the borrower, the drawer, the drawee, all of these different items. You get this one document understood, read all the definitions, then it should start making a lot more sense to you. And then we come in under, it's a collateral contract doctrine, okay? And it's also, we come in under without recourse, a form of qualified endorsement exonerating the endorsee from liability as such. So you endorse it over to your guarantor. He now also is the obligor. And basically then it has to go to the Attorney General's office to fulfill the obligation. The obligation now is upon the Attorney General's office to draw the funds out of this assurance account. Or the same thing with the Social Security Administration. That Social Security is another assurance account. It's an assurance fund at the national level. That's why you can set all your bills off. The fraud of it is basically that they're claiming it's employee retirement insurance. That's total bullshit. I got 2 payments about 4 years ago. I stopped my draw for the monthly payments because I knew that they were out there writing bonds and I didn't want them to do anymore. Well, lo and behold, I didn't know that they kept doing monthly draws for the next 40 months or whatever. So basically, they've got an account sitting there with about $60,000 in it. But they have him-hawed around, and basically they've frozen my damn thing because there's fraud going on. Somebody was utilizing those funds. I wasn't supposed to really know that basically there was $60,000 that should be sitting there. So somebody in the Kansas City office is going to be in deep hot water because I'm going to turn this in as a fraud and then also turn it into the CID to investigate this. I took my traffic tickets, I sent them up to the Attorney General's office I did endorsements on them. I had one hospital bill for about $2,600. I sent that up to the Attorney General's office. They'll be getting those tomorrow morning to set those off from the CAFR fund. That's the assurance fund. And that's our assurance fund. It's not the government's assurance fund. We're the assured. The government is not the assured. Now, the legislatures and everything else have been writing trust against those to borrow the funds out of those CAFR funds, and then they hope at the end of the year that nobody has claimed all the funds out of the assurance fund, so that the trust can basically be washed clean, because a corporation has to zero its books at the end of the year. So that's how they're playing the game. But if we know how the game is played, we can take all that assurance fund out. And here's the kicker. You have no account number in there. So, basically that means it's a commingled account. You have a drawing right against it. But it's unlimited, because you don't know how much money you've got in it anyway. And then it's also, since it's a one item, it's a monopoly account. Now you understand where the term monopoly money has been thrown around. It's because of this monopolization in the state CAFR funds. We're using monopoly money. Credit money that basically even the government corporations will accept. They don't need gold and silver. They can't operate with it. And all public utilities and public hospitals and gas stations, anything that is registered with the state, you can take all your receipts. You do an invoice of those receipts. The receipt has a number. The receipt normally has a cash register identification on there. Like if you have Walmart. Basically, a Walmart store has maybe 6 different cash registers. It will tell you exactly which cash register that receipt came from. But it also gives you the store, okay? I was trying to go back to the main corporate headquarters. No, these stores are located here in the state. They have to borrow money for operating expenses right here in the state. They don't get their operating expense money to start up the next year from the main headquarters, per se. It's really coming from the state usage out here. The state banking system. Now, the corporation may help them in that process of obtaining the funds, but we don't need to know that. We just know that basically every corporation that's operating within the state is basically getting funding by way of the insurance department of writing bonds against our land titles if we're born in that state. Hopefully that made a little more sense. Now, back up to the endorsements. Okay? If you're doing a CAFR account and you've moved to another state, you may have to turn around and, but if you have a house or property there and you owe so much utility bill, then basically they have used that property as the collateral, okay, because your land title is not located in that state. So you'll be limited in some cases to put a claim in against the state CAFR fund. You can do set-offs. You can do charges for the usage of the receipts that you have. But if you want to go out and buy a new vehicle, you're going to have to go to your home state, take the invoice from that or window sticker for that new vehicle, endorse it appropriately, and send it to your birthing state attorney general's office to draw from that CAFR fund based upon your birth registration in that state. Because that gives you a bigger share in that state. Now, on the number 4 endorsement, okay, I changed it around a little, okay? This bill/invoice is believed as valid by your name, the assured guarantor or guarantee. You could drop off owner, and then I added this, and therefore is endorsed over to my guarantor. And therefore is endorsed over to my guarantor without recourse. This obligation now requires the Attorney General's office, state, you would put your all capital name state there, Attorney General's office, in my guarantor's name, and then your guarantor's name is last name, all capital, comma, first name, middle name, all capital. Is to settle this bill/invoice number for so many dollars from the state of wherever assurance fund, CAFR. And CAFR stands for Claiming Assurance Fund Reserve. It doesn't stand for Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. That's the curtain that's been pulled over this fund. And this is based upon the usage of my county, state, land title registration. If you know the book and the page number, you can put it down. If you don't, you just have to know the county that you were registered in and the state. Pretty simple. If you want to put your date, birth date in there, you can. That's another way that they tie it down so that they can go and look at the book in that approximate time frame. And then you sign it as the assured guarantees authorization signature. So basically, in all 4 of them, you're going to have to add, and therefore is endorsed over and it's over to my postal guarantor. Okay, I should have put the word postal in there. The number 3 one would be postal borrower / Bailey. Because, see, these guys are postal. They're dead. And we have to go to the family plot to find them. And then their account numbers and their ID numbers have no dashes in them. They haven't been lying to us. There is no money in the ones that have dashes. They've been telling us the truth. But the ones that don't have any dashes, that's where all the money's at. And then you have to go to the family plot to get to the right place. You don't go into the cemetery looking for Patrick. You'll be looking all day long trying to find the divine area if you start out looking for Patrick. Because more than likely there's no family in there named Patrick. But there is family plots with the last name first. And see, that's a postal name. You go to the hospital, and the doctor, quack doctor, leaves a damn sponge in you. You want to sue him. Who do you sue? The living man? He ain't got no money. You got to go after his account. Last name first, comma, then first name. That's who you need to sue in court. You don't sue the living. He's insolvent. You may think he's got a whole bunch of money, but your big money is in the damn, buried in the cemetery. I think that's the game that Kennedy played out there. See, people have been looking at these things all from the wrong retrospect. And it wasn't until I got my hospital bills and I really got to looking at them and I said, shit, the answer has been staring me right in the face all along. One of them is going after my Social Security account. It's tied into the same organization that the other one is out there. Health Center. It's tied into the University Health Center, but the one I got from the university basically was going, I guess, the CAFR fund, the state fund, because it didn't use my Social Security number. The other one was using my Social Security number. Now, you go after the national one, that's taken care of over here. But they can turn around and still put a charge in against the state CAFR fund. Double dipping. That's how some of these people play. And then basically, if you paid out of your back pocket, in some cases, they're getting paid twice over. Now you wonder, or you understand, how these guys have and why they treat us the way they do. is because they're out there to try and rape us as much as they can. They're doing the Moby Dick scenario on us, stripping away a little bit of blubber at a time until they've got all they want, and then they dump us. Just like all the whalers did out there. A lot of those books that basically were out there written, people don't understand and never really comprehended what they were really saying. One that struck me today was To Kill a Mockingbird. Well, what are we going to do? We've got to kill our mocking person. So To Kill a Mockingbird, basically that book probably told you a hell of a lot on how to get out of this system. But nobody looked at it from that aspect. Yeah, so you got to know where the IDs and everything go. Now, basically for the endorsement, to use the 1099A with number 1 and 3. Pull up your 1099A form. Your capital first letter, small letter, first name, middle name the same way, last name the same way. That is the lender. He is also your employee. And he was also the bailor in the process. His address, you put it down, capital first letter, Avenue. The rest is small letters or something like that. Street, number, TH. Small letters. You put the dashes in. You get down to the zip code. You put the 5-digit plus dash 4 digits. You got a phone number. You put the dash in the phone number. He's your living right-hand man. The lender's federal identification number, which is really your employee identification number. Your employee, he's yours.
Mr. Meeks.
You have your Social Security number there with the dashes in it. Now, that's all for the lender. We're done with him now. Now you go over to the borrower's box. The borrower's identification number is the same Social Security number, but without any dashes. He's the mirror image, the mockingbird. He is mocking the living. He's the one that's buried. He is your birth sack that went back into the ground. And a sack is a purse holding the funds. You start tying all these words together and start looking at them, and oh yeah, shit, birth sack had something of very monumental value. It gave you support while you were in the womb. Well, now it went back into the land. It's going to continue to give you support. Now, the borrower's name is last name, comma, first name, middle name, all capitalized. The street address is all capitalized, no dashes. The city and state is all capitalized. The zip code only goes to the post office, the 5-digit number. Why? Because this is a postal delivery. It's going to the dead mail file. But see, that post office knows where that dead letter needs to go to. So they're going to deliver it to you. But it's really going into the dead mail system. So it does not have a 4-digit box number on it. Then the account number down below, okay? And you can only do this for your certificate of live birth or your selective service one. Okay, the account number is the Social Security or the selective service or the certificate of live birth number without any dashes. Pennsylvania registration number system they have over there is supposedly a 7-digit. It has no dashes in it. They left some of these things hanging out here to give people an idea of what's going on. But most people didn't see what's really going on. Now, you go over and the date the lender's acquisition or knowledge of abandonment. We want to do an acquisition. Balance of principal outstanding. You put in a value. Fair market value of property. Same number. Check number 5. If the borrower was personally liable for repayment of the debt. Yes. The borrower is your dead person. Not the living person, but the dead person.
Mm-hmm.
Description of property. My public U.S. bailment is partially reclaimed by my lender bailor from my U.S. postal borrower bailee in his postal account, if you want to put that on there. But I have that. My public U.S., I should have said, my public U.S. postal bailment is partially reclaimed. And see, this is the postal monetary system, not the post office, which was the de jure monetary system in this country. This is the postal system. We tried to address that in a certain manner before, but we didn't address it right because we were not using the numbers right and we were not using the names right. And we were not using the titles of the people right. We tried to do 1099-Cs, 1099-Bs. We don't do those. We can only do an acquisition from our bailment. You have a bill that is needed out there to be set off. You turn around and send that bill. You endorse it that you, as the guarantee, okay, are not the liable party. So you endorse it without recourse. And see, the charge is going against the Social Security, and that is another assured account. So you're the guarantee and the assured. And basically, in a sense, you're insolvent. Therefore is endorsed over to my postal guarantor assurer without recourse. you send it back to them, then they have to, the biller, the obligation requires the biller to use the 1099 forms and the IRS to settle the SSN bill from the guarantor's account. You tell them what the account number is. You take out the dashes. It's coming out of the postal account. Okay? So I think when you understand this, and basically you've got a vehicle title, okay? On that vehicle title, that certificate of title, it's got a value on it. You take that certificate and basically you endorse it with number 4 going against the capper fund, and you pull that full value off of that certificate of title back. Now you want to place that vehicle in the private, under a private registration. You've got the pink slip. You go to the postal system and get a registered mail number. You basically register it using the post office system with a postal number. Therefore, you have basically frozen that into the private. You would send that into the Department of Transportation or whoever that basically normally issues the certificates. And say, I want a private license plate to go with my identification here. And my private license plate is going to be attached to, normally, to that postal registration, which is a U.S. registration. Because when you look at most of the registered mail labels, it's normally RE or RG or something like that. First 2 digits, then it's got 9 digits in between. 3, a dot, 3, dot, or space, and then U.S. So now you've just registered that into the U.S. system. Now the states do not have jurisdiction over that when you're standing in the U.S. jurisdiction as a private vehicle. You've gone outside of their public domain. You can do the same thing with your certificate of live birth and your Social Security account. You go in and register them into the private. But you have to follow up, and you would have to send this into the state registrar or the head person in the Bureau of Vital Statistics, saying that this certificate of live birth has been claimed as private property, and basically the account that's associated with it, the one without any dashes, is also being claimed as private property. And then you can have that moved over to the National Treasury. You dig up that grave and move it onto your place. Okay, you buy the land, just like in the parable in the Bible about the guy that found a pearl, and then basically he buried it in the ground, and then he went and bought the land around that basically the pearl was laying on. So you bury your shit upon your now private property. And that's what you would do when you buy something. You register it into the private. You get it so noted. You basically can come in and claim that birthing date in the county records into the private. Move it out of the public. The state can no longer use that land title in their public domains. The county register will have to make the appropriate notation in that book entry. I tried to cover quite a bit of stuff here, and basically you're probably going to need to listen to this more than once, probably about 5, 6, maybe 10 times, in some cases, to try and get this comprehension out here.
Yeah, you really packed it in.
You get the documents, and basically, if you go through this and sort of listen to what I said about making some of the changes, because, see, in a lot of cases, it's going to be a little different in each different scenario that you're putting in. So your endorsement may be slightly different. Okay? In the process. So, let me see, on that definition page, okay, go down to the one about the guarantee, okay, the first guarantee, okay, that should have a key besides it, in front of it.
Okay.
It says the creditor, and basically it should be my bailor under a contract of guarantee with a Y, and that could either be the SS account or whatever in the process, being the person to whom the principal debtor, the United States Corporation or the state of whatever, CAFR fund, is primarily liable, and to whom the guarantor, and that would be my SS Bailey or my assurer, or my assurer and the state.
Not the bailor, but Bailey.
Bailey.
Okay.
Yes, the guarantor is the Bailey.
Okay.
And see, you go back to the table on the back, and you'll see that.
Right. You had bailor, so that's good.
Yeah, I had bailor, and basically I had to change that. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Basically, I've given you the corrections that I need to make to this one. This was one of the original definitions that I started, and then I just branched out. And when it started going across all the others, the other 9 people that I put down there, like assured, like assurer, like drawee, drawer, grantee, grantor, indemnity, indemnitor, obligator, obligee, all the different titles, the promisee, the promissor, the warranty, the warrantor, all different titles. And you need to look at all those, and then you can start seeing how they put these players into the scenario. Because some of the definitions are more meaningful, and when you put them all in their proper retrospect, now you can tie the definitions all together and see who the players really are. You're playing a game of Monopoly. But right now you're looking at all the players as being the car. You've got to separate them out and say, nope, that's the car. This guy over here is the hat. This guy over here is this one over here, and basically so on and so forth. You separate them out into their individualities in the process. And that's where you come up with the 4 different endorsements in the process. But you have to know who the players are and what capacity they're playing the game in those different endorsements. And see, once you cash out a certificate of title, you definitely cannot re-register it. Why? Because if you re-registered it, that would be essentially double dipping. Now, you want to make some money? You do one, then you go out and start buying up as many used vehicles as you can under the $500 range just to get the title. Go down to the local chop shop and just give them the car. You keep the title, you cash the title in. Hell, you're going to get some cases, some vehicles, brand new, $80,000. I don't know whether you'd ever find a used Mercedes-Benz out on the market for $500, but you might. Okay? But yeah, I mean, that's the game. And see, some of these car dealerships, and I said this years ago, but I just didn't know where we needed to go. And it wasn't until I saw that one definition, and that's why you have to keep after this, that one definition of assurance fund. And it's not in Valentine's, it's not in Black's. It was sitting in Bouvier's. Or not, but it was sitting in Valentine's. It wasn't in Bouvier's.
Right.
Okay? And that's why you can't rely upon just one dictionary out here, or else you'll never find the answer. Some cases you have to go back to an old dictionary, way back. You have to also should get a good old Webster's dictionary, 3 or 4 inch thick, or a Oxford Universal Dictionary, big one, around 1933 or earlier. Because they will give you more word definitions and break down the words in some capacities to show you that some words are a combination of different words in the process. Like American, Amer-I-can, a prince, an individual prince who can understand things. That's what an American is. And there's very few Americans out here. So, any court cases or anything like that, you would turn around and do an endorsement on the charges back to the court and say, here, you go and draw them from my, and especially if you've been incarcerated and you're from out of state, basically the incarceration, you have a right of assurance because you did time, and basically, so you put funds into that CAFR fund while you're being incarcerated. And you also have a right to claim the harm caused from being incarcerated. But you've got to put it in, the charge in, using your dead person to claim the funds. You don't put the charge in against the county, the state, or whoever. To go into the CAFR fund, you put it into your dead person because he didn't come forward and help you out. You were never supposed to go into prison to begin with unless you committed an act of murder. Primarily was the only reason you would ever go into prison in this country. Even if you committed treason, normally they just tried to get rid of you or hung you. But we weren't supposed to have a prison complex like basically what they had over in England and France and several of the other countries over there under the church and under the monarchs' prison system of throwing any and everybody into prison for the littlest thing. That's what our founding fathers set up in this country. That's why I told you about the 5th Congress, Session 2, Chapter 49. That if you were in prison because of a debt, and this was back in 1789 or something like that when that was passed. I forget what year it was. But anyway, you would petition the Secretary of the Treasury to draw the funds out of the Treasury, because that was we, the people's treasury, to pay the debt to get out of prison. If the court did not properly take care of it for you. The courts were supposed to do that. You're liable for making restitution. If you've harmed somebody, you're to make restitution to that person. You're not to make restitution to the state. Listen to those 5,000-year audios of how they set this Constitution up. It's right in there. And that was one of the items that was addressed. That you were to make restitution to the injured party if you injured somebody. The restitution wasn't to go to the state. They aren't injured. How could you ever injure the state when you are the state? Okay. We'll let it go and open it up for questions. Anybody there?
I just had a small one, Patrick. When you mentioned sending the registered mail to the Department of Transportation, you don't mean the title that you have, just a copy of the title, right?
No, you would send your new registration. You would take a copy of your pink slip, okay? You don't have a certificate of title any longer. You surrendered that to the CAFR fund.
Right.
So you've got the bill of sale or the invoice of the pink slip that you bought that vehicle, that is your property now.
Oh, okay.
And you would register that with the pink slip or with the registered mail And see, you're not going to have a certificate, but you're going to have a registration of that.
Okay.
And what do they always ask you for? I want to see your registration.
Right.
Yeah, they don't ask you for your certificate of registration.
Okay.
See, people don't hear the words either when they're used. All they want to do is to make sure who basically has the claim against that vehicle. Does the state have the claim, or do you have the claim? And when you cashed in the thing, the certificate with the capper fund, you have full ownership.
Do we have to do a 1099-A on the title of the car?
No, you don't.
Okay, I just wondered.
You know, I told you the only two items you do 1099-As on is when you're drawing funds either from your certificate of live birth account or from your military account.
Okay.
Those are the only time we would ever do a 1099-A. We do not do any 1099s. We send the bills back to them, to the biller, and they have to go in and file the 1099s. To do a draw or to do a cancellation in the process.
And can we do a draw for just funds?
They can do a 1099-A, and we just gave them authorization. We abandoned so much property over to them. So they would go in and do an abandonment claim.
Okay. Well, we can go as well as getting goods that way. We can just get funds.
What?
We can put in a draw for just for funds, and as well as a draw to pay for goods.
Against your certificate of live birth, okay?
Right. That's
you can draw so much money out of your bailment.
Okay. That's what I
But all your receipts and everything you have at the state level, you turn around and send those into the capper fund. You don't need any 1099-As at the state level.
No, I understand.
You don't need any IRS forms because the state does not have an IRS system. They don't have any forms. See, if they had the forms out there, they would have exposed themselves.
True.
They didn't want to expose themselves. Because they wouldn't have been able to keep as many employees as they've got, because sooner or later those damn employees would have figured out what the shit's going on.
Hello?
Yeah.
I got a question for you, Patrick. I appreciate all the work that you've been doing. And you have been dead on the whole time, but most people have not been doing their homework. I just recently put in the form that you had about the bailer and the bailee into a court case of a brother of mine. I have direct power attorney that he signed over, and when I put in the forms, automatically the judge said to the prosecuting bailee that you are not to issue any charges. So he then, in turn, because I came from being a post of office, from my post office box, which is directly true what you say, he shut down the case, and he asked my friend if the attorney was allowed to speak. Now, if my friend would have been knowing on the hand of what I was doing, because I did, on top of that, entered in the form that you had said adoption of foundation of law, depot, right?
Uh-huh.
And so it changed the course of the whole trial, because he was also, when he got caught, he was an ex-felon that had signed a plea, right?
Yeah.
So the judge said, the state hereby abandons the restitution, right?
Yeah.
If I can turn around and make payment for the restitution of the previous deal. Then he said also that the state forfeits all claims to weapons, guns, and ammunition, right? Because at that time his rights had been reinstated, because your rights can be reinstated anytime you make the claim, right?
Well, see, they can't take the rights away from the sovereignty anyway.
Right, true. So, in that case, I issued a letter already to the Secretary of State and to the Attorney General to shut down all for-hire accounts with copies of his ID, Social Security, access, health cards, and all that, right?
Uh-huh.
So now, only thing I did not do, the judge said, only thing he said I didn't do correctly was I didn't issue a motion to release, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing that he did not receive, and he said I have to go through with the sentencing without a motion to release. So what I'm working on now is issuing out the payment through through the Social Security Fund, and issuing out the endorsement to the judge so they can do it, because we know the judge was only saying that I know already that it was a false charge, because he had an indictment, a grand jury indictment that did not get served to him. It got served to his home address, but they had him already in custody. So they didn't serve him properly or correctly to the registered agent of process for that individual in time. It wasn't in the 48-hour range. So I hereby issue to the bailer that because they didn't issue it out in a 48-hour range, that they are now in contempt of court. So the judge said you do not file any more charges, because they were investigating whether the matter was true. But then the judge had already came back and said, even though he has the issue, even though that the indictment wasn't issued out in 48 hours, he had already filed a habeas corpus, right? But the habeas corpus got denied. He said even though the issue wasn't out in 48 hours, the plaintiff still has other forms that he can go through to relieve the retention for this matter, right?
Yeah.
So at the whole time, they had been violating the rights between me and him on a phone conversation, from which the jail, you entered into these old unsubconscious pleas of being subject to them listening to your calls and avoiding your constitutional rights. But they, on top of that, could not do that, because in turn we had a power of attorney, which privileges us to any conversation and relationship that we may have, correct?
Uh-huh.
So now, if you look into the register of your Secretary of State in most of your cities, if you go into it and you look, the Secretary of State is into the process already of alleviating you from most of these public duties that we feel that we have to claim, but we have not put in our rightful paperwork, which should be all the paperwork that we do have, and it'll get unleashed to the public register of the public police, so that when they identify you or your vehicle at any given time, they understand what your claim and stake is.
Yeah, that's what I was going over. You need to get it registered using the registered mail, that now puts you into the post office system when you put that in the proper way. And see, that's the de jure side, is the post office. And the postal side is the public side.
Right. Right.
And but in your court case, basically, you just need to endorse that, because the charge, they cannot charge you. They can only charge your fiction.
Right.
Okay?
It's true.
Then
true.
You have to send the charge to ground. Where is your dead person? He's in the ground.
Right.
You have to ground the charge.
Because all they want to do is just, once you're dead, they want to double dip with a death certificate after that, because they already got paid.
Yeah, well, basically, yeah, they want you to pay out of the back pocket. Then they will turn around and try and put that claim in against the CAFR fund.
Right.
Okay? So if you take them out of the picture and you have the settlement out of the CAFR fund and you bring the Justice Department in, is this
right.
a just charge?
Right. Right. And you can bring the Justice Department in by simply going to their website, because they asked you, is it a just claim, or do you feel that it is a just claim?
Yeah, but I mean, basically, when you put the charge in against the CAFR fund, they are definitely going to wake up, and now they will, because they don't want that money to come out of the CAFR fund to go to a wrong purpose.
Right.
Okay?
That's what now everybody is talking about Obama going into this martial law. But if you read, and you read carefully, he is just trying to control the corruptness of what's going on with these so-called foreign entity agents that are head of our states. And people are becoming afraid, like, oh, he's going to throw us in the FEMA camp and he's going to do all this. But like George Washington said, the cries of the people will cry out to do a just system. And so the FEMA camps are not necessarily for the people. They are for the people that have been in injustice.
Well, hopefully that's the thing that basically I think is for anybody that hasn't come out and taken their public land title and moved it over to a private land title scenario.
Right. So all those people out there that's sitting out there with foreclosures, they still have so much time that's ticking on the clock before you can take it out.
All they have to do on a foreclosure for a mortgage, okay?
Right.
They have to take that mortgage certificate and put it into the Attorney General's office and do an endorsement over and have your guarantor settle the bill, settle the mortgage.
If your Attorney General is on the up and up, then he will seek to acquire the remedy for the damages that have been sought by the other entities against you.
Yes, because you got to go back to that assurance fund.
Right.
Read the definition about that insurance fund again.
Because it's all insured, and they already got paid once.
No, you got to read what it says. There's two words there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? It says fraud or error.
Right, fraud, exactly. I've written up my claim already.
Error.
And fraud is when you notice
you
it.
paid it in error, okay?
Right.
You weren't supposed to pay it. It was already prepaid. You just had to get your dead man to pay for it. That's why if you pay a bill, like you paid all the utility bills up from January, February, March, April, May, you take those, you make an invoice for those utility bills, you turn around and put the charge into the CAFR fund and get reimbursed because you paid those in error.
Right. Mostly now, if you look at your bank account, it has a system to actually do it for you, but you issue it out yourself to compose it for you. I'm sorry. You issue it out yourself to reclaim the payment because you are here not getting paid, and they claiming that you are an agent, but you are not. You are individual. So
I'll tell you right now, okay, when you understand this capper fund, and when you understand this assured account, you are a complete asshole if you have a public bank account.
Exactly.
Okay?
Exactly.
Because you don't know what the shit you're staying in the public realm. Okay? You take your money out, you get it into Federal Reserve dollars, and you bury it in the backyard. Okay?
Right.
Or put it somewhere in a safety deposit box, or down at the train depot or something like that. Put it in a briefcase and stick it in there, and then go down and keep paying and have it sitting there.
Right. Because
I think you've got 30 days you can basically put it in that walker.
Right. Most people that have got caught on doing so-called IRS schemes have only got caught because once they get the money, they go back into the banking system of the public when the IRS system has already noted them to be private.
Right. And see, that's the thing. These people don't, and basically the banks are going to close their doors one of these days. And
exactly. They're already starting.
Yeah. And they're
already starting. They got ATM machines.
Yeah, and they freeze your safety deposit boxes along with your checking and savings account, your debit cards, and everything else. You're not going to be able to access anything. So you've got to get funds outside their jurisdiction and put them into the private.
Right. And most people that think, like, how am I going to operate in this system, if you start doing your research, you'll learn that there's more private credit bureau agencies than there are public. So that tells you already that something is off balance. There's only three public credit bureaus that you get referred to for a loan, and there's 7 privates. So really, look at what's going on.
Yeah, basically go down and buy a tanker truck full of gas.
Right.
Okay, when you come out, okay? Or go down to that oil company and say, hey, I want to buy this tank full of gasoline here. Put it on reserve.
Right. Or
see, you turn your assets, you turn what you have there into an asset, and then you can hang on to that asset or have that in storage available for you. You got to think outside the box on this shit.
I understand, or if you want to change the whole system the way it works, you can.
You ain't going to change the whole system.
Well, just the portion that you can change, you can go in.
The only one you can change is the one that you have direct control over.
Right,
and that's you.
Right. So I'm just talking about the way you operate. You could go in and claim all your gas receipts, and you could 1099 them because now you making notice that.
No. Your gas receipts, you turn them into the state capper. All those gas stations are registered at the state. All those gas stations have to borrow money through the state system. Okay, even though they're a national gas company. Right. They're operating within the state boundary. Therefore, they have to borrow money, even like the hospitals. Okay? They're all borrowing money from the state insurance division. And they're using our land titles as the collateral.
Correct.
And see, that goes all the way back to 1812 when the British came over here and went around to all the counties. What were they looking for? They were looking for who the creditors were out here. They had to get all the people that were living into a registration system.
Right.
And they put them into D.C.
I have one more question for you, Patrick.
Yeah.
Do you feel like if you look at your librarian, state librarian, the oldest library in your city, or biblioteca as it's called, right? Do you think that is where, instead of a safety deposit box of our records, there's a private side of the library where we can make requests for our records to be stored on the private side of that library? Because if you read on the state sites, they're trying to tell you that you need to store your records somewhere for when it all is chaotic and you don't have what you need to identify yourself by these state agencies anymore. You can become identified so that you don't become known as an enemy combatant, basically. So
I wouldn't go that route. Okay, you're going to a public place. Okay, and the public doors can shut down any time.
Okay.
Okay. You want to store somewhere, you pick the place, and basically this goes right back to what is in the Bible. You never tempt the Lord thy God.
Right.
So you never put it into somebody else's hands in the process. You control it, and you hide it away where only you know it. Hell, even the damn pirates back in the days of piracy, basically they didn't trust anybody. They went and buried it.
Right. So you means in way of so-called overall, like, your covenant, right?
Your what?
Your covenant. You make it your covenant. What is yours is yours. It's your covenant. You bury it.
Yeah, but you hide it, and you cover it over.
Right. I know it's probably hard for some people to grasp that, but it's a variable method to all of that in order to covenant and hide it properly.
Yeah. See, you go out and you basically buy land, and then you put the land into the private domain under your private estate or private enterprise. Nobody can tax that land now.
Right, and do not register with the bank so they can't come digging around to dig up your shit.
Yeah, and basically they can't come on that land, okay? Right. The state can't come on that land. It's private property.
Right.
In the real. Okay? And they can't tax private property either. Just try and make sure you don't get it into a place to where they could try and go in on eminent domain.
Right. So
you don't want to build it right in the middle of a freeway somewhere.
Right. I understand.
Try and use a little logic in the damn thing, as Mr. Spock would say.
Right. I just want to say, again, I appreciate all the hard work you have done in this process and the transition to where we are going in the future and your technology. And
I just want to reiterate back to you, basically, if you have any more court problems, you basically say, I am here to settle, okay? And basically, give me the charges, and I will submit them up to the Attorney General's office if you do not submit them up there to be a draw against the capper fund. Because I'm insolvent, and basically I am turning this over to my guarantor who has access to that capper fund.
Right. I ordered the charges from the prosecuting attorney to be delivered up to the Attorney General so I can do the proper set-off. That's what did shut off the case. Yeah. So now I'm waiting on the delivery of the charges because I gave them 48 hours to deliver the charges. So they shut the case down in 48 hours. But I'm waiting on the delivery of the charges to my post of office.
Now, if any luck, basically, that judge will really throw it completely out.
Say that again?
I said, with any luck, that judge will completely throw that thing out. Because, see,
he already said that he would. He just want the letter from me so that any claim that can be made against him will not be made once he throws it out because he has not received it.
You give him exoneration by this endorsement that he is exempt along the process with your guarantee person, that you're also going to exempt him and put the obligation over onto your guarantor that if any liability or anything like that was to come back to him, your guarantor would take care of it for him.
Exactly, because when I brought up the paper, I used a couple other forms that you had when you were doing like a precipice or something. So when I brought up the charges, right, the charges were consisting of the individuals of the prosecutors, the two prosecutors, the state DOJ, Department of Corrections or whatever. And it was also, it had, you know, the ones that were under there that you couldn't see, like the licensing, the access card for insurance, and the food stamp card, right? So when I issued them and closed them down, right, all of a sudden their names disappeared from that exact sentencing because now they didn't have any more jurisdiction over that. And the whole time the judge was saying for the charge, he was telling my friend, I don't have jurisdiction, right, to release you from this charge until I receive a letter.
Yeah, you give them the letter. You give them the endorsement, okay, just like I told you here. Listen to this call again. Okay, I got to run. Anybody else out there with a question? Comment.
Patrick?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah,
Patrick?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I don't quite understand the CAFR, where you send stuff to the CAFR, and you said something about...
You send it to the Attorney General's office, and basically they have customer agents there, and they're called investment brokers. Okay? You don't see that right up front. But basically, if you go into the website, you might see some of those titles of being investment abbreviation, okay? Well, if they're basically an invest, level 4 or something like that, they're an investment broker, okay? And what are they brokering? They got to be brokering this CAFR fund, which really, I told you, is titled claiming assurance fund reserve. It's a reserve account. It's our reserve that is sitting there for us to use as a reserve and draw the funds out, okay? And see, you have to do an endorsement. Take a bill. You do an invoice, like all your receipts. You can take your mortgage. You do an endorsement and endorse it back to your guarantor person and have it, and then submit it up to the Attorney General's office, who is now the obligor under the obligation to process this in your guarantor's name. You follow all that?
Sort of.
I mean, it's that simple. I mean, you can do this with anything.
Okay.
Really,
Something else
on
that, I was wondering, you said something about if you have, when you go to the CAFR fund, I was born in Tennessee, and so you said something about you have to go to your birth state, but my house that I own is in Oregon. So I have to go through
the house
Tennessee?
you own in Oregon, all the utilities and everything else. You have a lawful claim because they're using that property up there in Oregon. So you can go to the Oregon CAFR fund for those items. But I said if you were to buy a brand new car, you're probably going to have to go back to your home state. Now, in some court cases, you would you're not there, so you might have to say, okay, when you go to the Attorney General's office and say, okay, either you can, if I can access this state CAFR fund, but if not, go and contact my Attorney General down here at this state and put the CAFR charge in there at your birthing state, because you've got a bigger right of claim at the birthing state.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Yeah. See, you just sort of got to think these things through.
Yeah,
and that's
I
why
haven't heard you.
that's why Davy Crockett was called a Kentuckian. Where was his insurance account at? Back in Kentucky. He wasn't a Texan, so he didn't have any insurances there in Texas. That's why they killed him, because he wasn't insured. He got out of his territory. Jesus, what they call him? A Nazarene. Because that's where his insurance fund was at, was in Nazareth, which is also over Bethlehem, too. That was the county or the district or whatever. Numerous things down through. I mean, you've heard these things over and over out here, but you just never thought about them.
Right.
Okay, anybody else?
Yep, Patrick, I have a question.
Okay.
Actually, I have two. The first question is in regards to the child support. This is Jennifer from Wisconsin. Listening to the call, you mentioned something in regards to the first name, the last name first. And on this letter of income withholding for support, I find it very unusual how they have the name addressed on the letter, employee obligor's name, last name first, first name, and then the middle with my Social Security number.
Yeah.
So basically I can go back, because my assurance state is New Jersey, I can go back and
you can turn around and send that in and endorse it back to them without recourse and say, here, you settle this from that account at the Social Security Administration. But you turn around and you're going to go to that state that is doing that, and you're going to go in against the CAFR fund so they can't double dip.
Yeah, I'm from New Jersey.
Okay? You pull the funds out of it. You say, hey, I will either allow you to do the Social Security, but I'm not going to allow you to also go after the CAFR fund.
So they're double dipping out of the Social Security and the CAFR.
If you don't stop them, more than likely they will.
Right.
That's what they're doing. That's why they got the name.
You don't know that. I said that's what they might do, okay? But you put the stop to it when you put the claim in against the CAFR fund for that amount. See, I've got a hospital bill. I'm going to send one back to them, take the funds out of my Social Security account, and then I'm going to get compensated on the other side by going after the CAFR fund so that I'm not out anything. It was a wash in my behalf, and that's the way it's supposed to be. That one at the Social Security is supposed to be given all back to us.
Yeah.
The one at the state CAFR fund, that is a commingled account. But you can put the charge in there. You allow them to have the funds out of the one, but you turn around and get reimbursed. It's like you pay the utility bill, and then you need to go in and get the money back out of the CAFR fund because they have used your assets.
Yep.
Now, both the Social Security and the CAFR fund, under that marriage certificate, are using your collateral out here to write the bonds. So they're both writing bonds. Now, you are owed, and you're the assured. You've got to prevent them from double dipping. And the only way you can do that is to put that ticket in to the opposite one so that now if they try and put that same ticket in, it's going to red flag in their system. they will be the ones that prosecuted. Justice Department will go after them for double dipping.
Yep.
Okay? Any other questions? I got all the answers now.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. My second question is off topic in regards to you taking the pure maple syrup with the baking soda. What was your concoction of doing that? Like, was it 2 tablespoons of maple syrup and a teaspoon of baking soda?
It was 4 tablespoons of maple syrup and I think it was a teaspoon or 4 teaspoons of baking soda, something along that lines. But it was tablespoons, the bigger one of the maple syrup, and then the lesser one of the baking soda.
Okay.
And you want to sort of warm it up. You don't want to get it too hot because you don't want it to the baking soda to bubble up.
Yeah. The reason why I ask is because last week they ended up taking me to the hospital. Something happened where I couldn't walk, and my employer thought I had a stroke. And lo and behold, make a long story short, they sent a certified mail on Thursday, and the UW found something in the MRI, and they found a lesion on the pineal. And they're saying it's from either head trauma, which I've had. The last one that I had was back in 2007. Now, why would this all of a sudden occur? And I'm thinking maybe it's the fluoride in the water, but I drink.
Oh, it's sort of like a time-release capsule.
Yeah. I drink the reverse osmosis water, and they say that it's fluoride-free, chlorine-free. I just got
it's hard
the
to
letter
say
what.
But basically, you get this thing down and understand, then you can turn around and get some funds, and then you can go to some other place and get a different reading than basically the quack doctors or whatever. Some of them are good, but some of them are quacks.
Yeah.
Okay? So that's what you have to do. Okay? Anybody else?
No, Patrick, thank you very much.
Okay. We'll talk to you later. You take care.
Thank you. We'll go over this a lot.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Patrick.